your cats and houses, broken your attics 1,000 times. Come yet again, come.
A few weeks ago, I checked out another stack of books about dinosaurs for my eldest child from the Kalamazoo Public Library. I think we have all of them at our house at this point. And in one of them, it named that dinosaurs lived on Earth for 500 times longer than humans have so far. And I've been thinking about that a lot this week that is historical and monumental in so many ways. So when I think about the length of humanity's existence and try to imagine that span of time, I also hold that that is just 1/500th of the time that dinosaurs existed on this planet. And that span of time is just a tiny, tiny fraction of the history of our planet and of our universe. And it's been powerful to have that as front of mind this week as things are changing. I have a dear friend who works in public health who said that they've already gotten more response from the Federal Emergency Management Administration 3 days into the new administration, and are going to be able to care for and collect better data around COVID-19 and people who are sick. And so there's something powerful in recognizing these two truths at the same time, that what is happening right now matters tremendously, especially for the most vulnerable among us. And when we think about the scale of history and the scale of distance of our world, of our planet, of our universe, all of this is so tiny. So I invite us today to sit with both the intimate and the ultimate as we gather together. Come, let us worship together.
Welcome all. We know you come here for different reasons: to find community, to seek spiritual and personal truths, to question, to nurture your heart and your soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find the answers to some of your bigger questions. We welcome you. We know you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We hope you will find comfort, connection, challenge, and love here. We hope you will find ways to provide outreach to others in our congregation, in our local community, and in our world community. My name is Becky Moffett-Moore, and I'm from the Sunday Services Committee. I would like to extend a welcome to everyone gathered here this morning, though we are spread afar, whether you're new or a regular at People's Church. To those of you who are visitors to our services or here for the first time, thank you for being with us today. People's Church is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association and part of a liberal religion. Here, our mission is to be a beloved community, embracing and serving our diverse world. Whoever you are, I welcome you. We welcome you. Our guest speaker today is J. Barrett Lee. Barrett has served as a minister for congregations in New York and Michigan, and currently works as a chaplain for Bronson Methodist Hospital and Hospice Care of Southwest Michigan. He lives in Kalamazoo with his wife, Sarah, and their 2 children. During Reverend Rachel's upcoming sabbatical, Barrett will serve as our sabbatical pastoral care minister here at People's. I first met Barrett on a march against gun violence in Kalamazoo. Before COVID-19, we would occasionally see each other at monthly gatherings of Nerd Night, where we would discuss the theological and philosophical implications of Star Trek episodes we watched that night. Needless to say, I am looking forward to his message this morning.
Good morning, everyone. From me, each time we sing together, I invite you to find a posture that enables you to breathe evenly and easily. This is our first song together, Dona Nobis Pacem.
If you are lighting a chalice at your home, you are encouraged to type in the chat box. A chalice is lit either in your neighborhood, city, street. We're having some difficulty here getting our chalice lit. There we go. From the web of life. We light this chalice for the web of life, which sustains us, for the sacred circle of life, which we have our being. For earth, the sky, above and below, and for our Mother Earth, and for the mystery.
Good morning. For those who don't know me, I am the Reverend Rachel Lonberg, the minister of this congregation, and I have several announcements for us this morning. The first is from the Green Sanctuary Committee. Today at 12:30, Professor Devin Bloom will be speaking about the recent release of sediment into the Kalamazoo River during repairs to Morrow Dam and its effects on fish and other species. This is part of the Green Sanctuary Committee's Eco Forum series. And you can find the link to the Zoom gathering in your weekly email, or we will paste it in the chat in a few moments. In about 3 weeks, my sabbatical will begin. And I know there's a plan in place for a car parade goodbye. But if it's important to you to have a conversation between now and then, please reach out. I have time and I would love to hear from you. And I don't have the capacity to call everyone in the church, so I trust those of you who want to talk to reach out. So over the last months, church leaders and I have been figuring out how we fill what we called the Rachel-shaped holes for my sabbatical. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about how we are filling the Rachel-shaped hole when it comes to care. So People's Church and People's People are really good at caring for one another in informal ways. People care for their friends or the people that they're in small groups with, often in ways that we don't know someone needs care until a half dozen meals have already been provided and people have been loved and taken care of. And we know that sometimes people need more care and support and listening ears than just that. So People's Church has an abundance of people in helping professions, and I tapped a few of those folks to be part of a pastoral care team when I am away. And so they will be available for support and listening ear or a connection to resources if that's what you need to navigate a challenging time. And so I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you now with this short video.
Hello, my name is Don Miller. I've been a member of People's Church for about 20 years and work professionally as a family therapist. I feel honored to have been asked to be a part of this pastoral team while Reverend Rachel's on sabbatical. So, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Mitchell. I've been a member of People's Church for 7 years, and I recently retired after 31 years as a clinical therapist with Family and Children's Services in Kalamazoo. I'm looking forward to serving on the People's Care team during Rachel's upcoming sabbatical.
Hi, my name is Rochelle Habeck-Hunt, and I'm glad to serve on the Pastoral Care Committee while Reverend Rachel is on sabbatical. My background is in rehabilitation counseling, and later on in life, I did training in pastoral care at Bronson Hospital. I would be happy to talk with you if the need should arise. Thanks.
Greetings, People's People. This is Daryl Liacano, and I am very happy to be helpful and look forward to being present for pastoral care and support while Reverend Rachel is on her sabbatical. And I have over 3 decades of experience as a clinical social worker and also experience as a part-time instructor for Western Michigan University. So I wish you all the best. Again, I'm happy to be here to be of support and look forward to seeing you all in person very soon. Take care.
Hi, my name is Gay Walker, and I'm pleased to be on this new pastoral care team. I'm an art therapist, and I was the director for holistic health at Western for 8 years, and I taught illness and end of life as well as other classes. Before that, I worked for Hospice for 8 years. And I also have a nonprofit organization named Chrysalis Community, which is focused on cancer support in many ways. And that's important because I'm a cancer survivor of 22 years of 2 kinds of cancer. And then 4 years ago, I became a widow when my husband of 50 years died. So I'm very familiar with grief and support in that way. So if any of this fits for you, I'd be happy to talk with you.
So that's our excellent team of carers. And in addition to them, we have contracted with Barrett Lee, who is our preacher today, to both support that team and to be our person for rites of passage. So if you find yourself needing a wedding or a memorial service or any other sort of rites of passage, remember his face, because he will be the person available for that while I'm away. So there's a way to contact this team because we're not having all of these people be on call for 5 months straight because they have lives and have other things they want to do. So we're inviting people, if and when you need care and support, to call the church. When my sabbatical starts, we're changing my voicemail to to be their dedicated voicemail line. So they'll be checking it several times a day and can respond. And we've also set up an email address for them, which is care@peopleschurch.net. All of this is in the newsletter that you'll see. You don't need to write down these numbers right now. But I know many of us learn in multiple ways, so this is your chance to hear this information. And I think these are some of the best carers I know across this team. So people that I would turn to if I needed care and support. So I hope you don't need that. And if you do, these folks will be here to be a listening ear and offer care and support and connection in the months ahead. So I'm so grateful to the team and to everybody who cares for each other at our congregation.
People's people are a generous people. When I first attended People's, I was intrigued by how friendly and approachable folks were. As I became more involved, I began to see the generosity of compassion, acceptance, authenticity, and enjoyment people had for serving each other and visitors. Finding joy, serving with one's time and talent was the game changer for me. So here I am. And now I invite you to continue to be the generous people that you are and support the good and important folks of this church. The link can be found in the chat box.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak. Her sap doth run in my veins. Boundless my soul like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant scent. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
Please join me in giving thanks for all that sustains us. From the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love which none of us can accomplish alone.
I now invite you to join me in a few moments of silence.
I invite you, as we leave this time of silence, to reflect on yourself, more accurately yourselves, for each of us carries many within us. Let's begin by tuning in to our bodies. Feeling the floor underneath our feet or the chair at our back. If our eyes are open, paying attention to the lights and the shapes and the colors in our field of vision. The sounds that are coming through our ears. And the you that is experiencing these things, we can call your phenomenal self. Turning our attention to all that has contributed to this phenomenal self. We think of the families who raised us, the friends who surround us, the families that we have created. We think of the cultural heritage from which we come. The path that our ancestors took to bring us to the place where we are today. The history of even the language that we're using. And those who have shaped that language and that culture. This is your cultural self. Thinking further. Reflecting on the parts of your body and the journey that evolution has taken to give shape to this particular you in this moment. Imagining the strands of DNA winding around themselves, replicating, passing on a heritage that traces back not only to our human ancestors, but to other animals, primates, mammals, the dinosaurs that Rachel mentioned, bacteria. Going back and growing more complex over billions of years. This you is your biological self. And finally, let's reflect on those atoms and molecules, subatomic particles that make up those strands of DNA. The oxygen and nitrogen that you are breathing in. Atoms that were formed in the furnaces of stars billions and billions of years ago. These stars who are our ancestors. And the particles and the energy that go all the way back. And I mean all the way to the formation of the universe itself, some 13.8 billion years ago. This is you as well. This is your cosmic self. And while our phenomenal selves, our personal selves, might exist only for a short time on this planet, the cultural and biological selves that we are will continue for much longer. And finally, that cosmic self, which was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Blessed be, and amen.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise, for the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise, for the wonder of each hour, of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise, for the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
The reading this morning is from excerpts from a book by Jennifer Morgan called Born with a Bang. I was hardly a tidy universe. If I had a human mother, she would have scolded me for all my clutter and confusion. And I'm not just talking about dirty socks on the cosmic floor. It was utter bedlam. When I was a fraction of a second old, I was already a mess. Hotter than 1 trillion degrees, I was blazing with the heat of billions of suns. Suddenly, gigantic glowing bolts of energy flashed everywhere and shrank into these teensy things. Oh no, what have I done? Actually, I had done something incredible. Yes, I had turned energy into the very first things, tiny particles. Particles are the invisible bits of stuff that everything is made of. Maybe my dreams could come true. Maybe I could turn myself into stars and grass and lions and kittens and boulders. Maybe I could be you too. But oh, blast, a frustrating thing kept happening. Every time I turned energy into a particle, its exact opposite, an antiparticle, would appear. These pairs were friendly. In fact, they were enemies that destroyed each other every time they met. I had barely begun my adventure and I was already out of control. Two sides were at war, yet both were a part of me. In the beginning, they were equally matched and kept zapping each other. So I made more, billions more. And then, amazingly, for every billion particles that were zapped by an antiparticle, I was able to make one extra particle. The particles were winning, so I made more and more and more. Then I stopped. I had enough basic bits of stuff to build myself into the universe you know today. And guess what? The number of these particles has stayed the same ever since. Everything, including your body, is made of those same particles that I made long, long ago.
A fire mist and a planet, a crystal and a cell, a starfish and a saurian, and caves where ancients dwelled. The sense of law and beauty, a face turned from the sod. Some call it evolution, and others call it God. Haze on the far horizon, the infinite tender sky, the ripe rich tints of cornfields and wild geese sailing high, and over high and lowland, the charm of goldenrod. Some people call it autumn, and others call it God. Like tides on crescent sea beach, when moon so new and thin, into our hearts' high yearnings come welling, surging in, come from the mystic ocean, whose rim no foot has trod. Some people call it longing, and others call it God. A century lone and frozen, a mother starred for brood, and Socrates' dread hemlock, and Jesus on the rood, and millions who, though nameless, the straight hard pathway trod. Some call it consecration, and others call it God.
Physics is good for theology. This is a phrase that I sometimes will use just to get a good laugh from my scientist friends. Because what could be further from factual data than preachers who postulate mysteries, placing the power of myth on a level with math? But reality often refuses conformity. Facts are not always so opposite truth as we sometimes might think. With the Hildegards, Starhawks, and Muirs, with the Schrodingers, Einsteins, and Plancks, with the prominent mystics and scientists, honoring critical thought and ecstatic experience, standing with one in the left hand and one in the right, we can open our hearts and our minds to the whole of reality. Sagan and pagan are neighbors in more ways than one. And so this, in the end, is my reason for saying that physics is good for theology. Back at the dawn of the universe, after the bang that had started it all, but before the first hydrogen atoms had formed, in the darkness before there was light, there were particles. Scientists haven't been able to name them, but they are the ancestors, forebears of matter and mass. But these ancestors didn't begin with a peaceful embrace. They would fight with each other, and foe would annihilate foe with extreme prejudicial intent. Only 1 in a billion remained. We might ask ourselves, what could we possibly make out of such an ignoble beginning? Or what is the good that could possibly grow out of so much destruction and chaos? The answer is everything. People, chrysanthemums, planets and galaxies, all of the stuff in the universe comes from those 1 in a billion that stayed. In the Tanakh, the scripture of Jewish religion, there is an oracle told by the prophet Isaiah. A tree stump, remains of a mighty old oak, and a sprout growing out of the middle. It's tiny and fragile, a fragment of all that was lost. But the life of the tree is still pulsing within. That life is what matters. For where there is life, there is hope. And our hope is the strength of the future. Isaiah recorded this oracle, seeing his people like sprouts. They were facing an enemy bigger than them, and their hope was beginning to wane. But Isaiah looked deeper than their situation and saw that not all had been lost. For the life of the tree was still pulsing within, and their faith in their God was alive. What Isaiah could see went beyond just the facts and gave insight to Israel's fight to continue. And just as it was with the particles, and just as it was with Isaiah, it's still just the same for today. when impossible challenges weaken our strength. Unexpected events take a toll, when the dreaded catastrophe visits our doors, and the life that is left is a stump. When the job has been lost, the relationship ends, and the doctors have done all they can. When the particle war leaves just 1 in a billion and everything seems to be lost, then we ask, what could possibly come from the mess that is left to us? That is a question that we have to answer ourselves. There's no doctor or prophet or biblical verse that can tell you why grandma has cancer. The best they can give you is general guidance for what you can choose to do now. In the comings and goings of life on this earth, there is nothing and no one that gives you the answer. And that's not unfair. You can ask any teacher the week before final exams. The capacity students develop to work with the problems is central to learning. If God or the fates were to give us the answers to all of our problems, we'd never be ready to make the responsible choices that life sets before us. We'd stay in the summer of childhood, neglecting the learning we came here to do. If existence has meaning, I strongly suspect that that meaning is made and not found. Our religions and teachers will give us the tools, but the work is still ours to complete. Of the myriad ways that we humans make meaningful lives, I like stories the most. In my work as a chaplain, I get to hear stories from patients, families, and friends. I've heard tragedy, comedy, romance, and mysteries that baffle my skeptical mind. How I wish I could share them. But ethical ministers never would pray and then tell. When a person is telling their story, I love how they pick out the details to share. What they wore, what they said, the time of the day, or what happened a fortnight before. In the details, the small stuff, the meaning evolves that will stick with that person forever. A couple who met on a Valentine's Day might decide that their love was predestined. It might be coincidence, maybe it's fate, or perhaps it was Cupid. It's not for us mortals to know. What's important about what they think is the way it affects how they live. If the couple believes it was Cupid that brought them together, and that is the faith that sustains them in love through the years, I say, great. And may Cupid continue to bless you through thick and through thin all your days. While I may not agree that their Cupid exists, I can see how it strengthens their love. And that love is the point. It's the choice that they make. And that choice is the meaningful thing. When you next tell the story of something that happened to you, I invite you to think of the following. What is the gift that this story is offering to me? And then what's the response that this story is asking for? What is the gift that this story is offering to me? And then what's the response that this story is asking? The stories we tell have a meaning. It's either unconscious or conscious. By asking these questions, we make the unconsciousness conscious, which means we are thinking about what we're thinking. The meaning we make from the stories we tell can reveal what we truly believe. When we look at the earlier universe story, for instance, where particles blasted each other to nothing, one could say it was a colossal mistake because everything perished, except a few fragments that floated together in space. Let's say that is the story I'm telling about this event that has happened. The gift that this story is offering to me is the knowledge that life is a battle and only the lucky survive. The response that this story is asking is do unto others before they can do unto me. If this life is a war, I should seize the advantage. Make sure that the 1 in a billion is me. If the story I'm telling is something like that, I can ask if that squares with my deepest beliefs. Do I really believe what I say in this story? Or could I imagine a different analysis? What if I looked at the particle war like the prophet Isaiah examined the sprout and the stump? If the gift that I choose to accept in the midst of tremendous destruction is life's overwhelming creative potential, then I can respond by imagining ways I can turn this disaster around. If I cannot avoid it and cannot undo it, then maybe I'll use it to make something new. If I need some ideas for what I could make, I can look at chrysanthemums, people and galaxies, planets and prophets, and sprouts on a stump. For the life of the tree and the power of being is pulsing inside. And in that, I can find just a hint of some hope. And the strength of the future becoming reality. Physics is good for theology.
Though below me I feel no motion,
Thank you, Barrett. Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Laura, for putting together and leading this service today. Physics is good for theology. So I hope as you leave this congregation, this gathering today, you remember that every particle of your being is one and in a billion. That your existence is incredibly unlikely, and you are very precious. And the same thing is true for every other human and every other being. May we treat each other with that profound respect for how unlikely all of us are. May we go in peace and go in love.